I have always been obsessed with fashion history. I've spent a long time in the historical costuming community on YouTube, been sewing my own costumes for the Renaissance Festival for years now, and have now made about 6 corsets to date, with various historical or contemporary influences. I've never made a corset from the Victorian age though. The time period is categorized by the times, from the early era of Bertha collars to the later period skirts, reminiscent of lobster tails. Everything about these fashions started with the undergarments. And what held up those layers in skirts and petticoats? None other than the corset. My research started in various museum catalogs, accessible through online databases and pictures. These examples were foundational for the rest of my project, and later historically inspired recreation. I loved the bright and colorful corsets the best, because what's the point of making it plain? I eventually decided on the slightly boned corset with diagonal channels, resulting in a diamond shape in the front, but with the colorways inspired by these corsets from the Metropolitan Museum. From what I know about the period, synthetic fabrics didn't exist yet, so my material search started with natural fibers, with a focus on cotton, because cotton is more easily accessible. I had a yellow cotton sateen in my fabric stash and got the black cotton twill from a fabric store. To verify my fabric content, I used a burn test.
Hi, so the first thing I'm gonna do is conduct a burn test to make sure that the fabrics I have are natural fibers. It's a way that we can check without having knowledge of what it was labeled on as when it was on the shelf, because some of these fabrics have been in my stash for quite a while. So I have here 3 cuttings from different fabrics. This yellow one is being from my main fabric, which is most likely a cotton sateen, because it has some slight shine, which would have been used in the Victorian age. And then also this cotton canvas, which I think most closely resembles twill, cotton twill, which I want to be using for the lining, to make sure that this is natural fiber. When we burn it, it's going to catch on fire, and it needs to also disintegrate under my hands. And that is how we can conclude that that is in fact a natural fiber. Unnatural fiber, on the other hand, like this pink satin, which is a polyester satin, it's going to burn and kind of curl up and melt because it has some plastic content in it. And so I'm going to perform that and then show you the results. So you can see lightly skimming it with a flame, and then it catches on fire. It's going to smoke a little. And then as the embers burn out, I can rub my hands along the fire line there, and it just disintegrates, and I can almost rub it away. This twill as well. That one burned rather quickly. That one burned really fast, so I blew it out really quickly. And that one too disintegrates. And then here we have the polyester, which does not light on fire, but we can see that it does curl in this kind of plasticky sheen because it obviously was a polyester. Here's a close-up on the fabrics here. You can see the burn lines. It's disintegrated. I did it a couple times, so that's why there's a little bit more burn than what was shown in the video. And then, of course, this one, again, has distinctive burn marks. And here's where you can really see is the difference between the polyester and the natural fibers, is that obviously this one did not catch on fire whatsoever, but it has a distinctive curl, and it's a kind of hard plastic bit. So you can see that this polyester here is got a lot of plastic content in it, and this one right here is a natural fiber because it burned right away.
After gathering all my base materials, I could source the notions: cotton threads in black and yellow, lace and ribbon. The lace is a cotton crochet lace with eyelets for ribbon insertion, which was quite popular during the period. But it was alternatives to satin ribbon that I had a hard time sourcing, eventually landing on a 7mm silk ribbon that I could order online. I also ended up dyeing the lace black because I could not find black cotton lace in stores. Hello, welcome to my kitchen. I'm going to be dyeing some of my pieces here for the corset. This piece of black lace, of course, and then just because it's a big bottle of dye, I don't want to waste it all, I will be dyeing 2 other things because this is cotton and these are also mostly natural fibers. I'll be using the all-purpose dye. There's a synthetic dye for synthetic materials, but because it's been a priority to get natural materials, this is of course a cotton crochet lace that I will simply be dyeing black because I couldn't find black crochet lace. I'm just going to be following the instructions in the back. It says to mix for every pound of fabric, half a bottle, so 4 ounces. So I'm just going to be following that and see where it leads me. Okay, so I'm just gonna walk you through my dyeing process. I made the dye bath and I'm just adding in, you have to add salt and you have to add dish soap into it and wet all of the garments as well. And then I just mix it up and it sits on the stove like at a warm temperature for about an hour. So I've just got a time lapse of my process doing that all, but I'll show you the results when I'm done. So it looks like the dye came out really well. It took pretty well to most of the pieces. This dress kind of turned out a little purple, all blotchy, but it's alright because I already like it better than what it was. And then my piece of dye, or my piece of lace, is perfect. It's all black. It's not turned purple or anything weird or anything like that. So it's pretty good, if I might say so myself. Now I just gotta wash it and get all the extra dye out, but it's pretty good. I also have to address my method of making this piece. Although an electric machine would not have been available in the 19th century, I neither had time nor resources to find and learn how to use a Victorian sewing machine. And since there were machines at this time, I reasoned that my most accessible option was still an electric sewing machine, though I only used a straight stitch throughout the making of my final garment. Lastly, in the matter of boning, while there are several options for synthetic whalebone, a corset material used in the 19th century made out of baleen, I chose to use flat steel boning and spiral steel spring boning to keep with the trend of non-plastic materials, and both have evidence for use during the period. My first pattern was made by tracing an existing garment that I already had. This was typical for the period, either by using patterns or an existing garment to trace. I created my flatline pattern and cut and sewed a mock-up so I could see where to go from there. Okay, so this is my first mock-up, and I have the busk in, but I don't have any boning on it, so it's quite wobbly. I've just tied it together. It's just tied together with like just ties. I haven't put the grommets in or anything yet, but from looking at it, there's a mirror right in front of me. I can see a few areas where I'm going to change some things in my second version. So first of all, these hips are not wide enough whatsoever. I tied it so it had even distance all the way across and
clearly my hips don't fit in there. So there's actually like a bunch of it bunched up here, and so it's actually supposed to be much longer, but it's just like bunched up here. That being said, I do really like this V shape, so when this comes down, I'm going to dramatize it a little bit more because I do like how the V is. Make it a little less, it's a little more round when it's fully out, so I'm going to make it more of a straight V. The bust area here, I have already marked the places where I want to change it. So I'm just going to pleat it inwards. Well, not pleat, but like take out some in the top. And when I hold it up just like this, I haven't sewn it yet, but when I hold it up just like this, it already smooths out the top quite a bit. And then of course the top will stop flopping once I have a boning channel in. I also can shorten it quite a bit, so it doesn't need to be as long as I initially thought. There's also a layer of lace that goes on the top, so that'll build volume here in the bust area. And then in the back, can't really see it because there's not boning channels, but when I put it on my mannequin, I noticed that the sloped back piece at the very top of the corset in the back is kind of flat. So I'm gonna raise that a little bit. And then also the corset kind of goes down again in the back, so it's reflecting this V in the back, which I don't want. So I'm gonna flatten that edge and make it a little straighter, so it'll be straight edge on the back and more dramatic slope on the top. But that's my first mock-up, so I think things are going pretty well.
My second mock-up addressed the mistakes from my first mock-up, and although I was happier with the fit, I was hesitant to start cutting out my final materials, eventually making a third mock-up that may not have been the best use of my time, but still helped me address things like the length and bust shape. I also made my bust and my grommet panels at this stage, so I could seam rip them and just use them again in my final piece, instead of spending all the time making a grommet panel for my mock-up. The grommet panel included flat steel boning either side of the channel to ensure the fabric doesn't end up warping while lacing and during wear.
Okay, so I am now starting to put in the grommet and put in my first boning channels. This is so I can, try on my mock-up properly, which I think will be the final one with maybe a few adjustments, but I want to try it on with proper lacing channels. So I'm on to my final lacing channel, and what I'm finding for the grommet panel specifically is that there is usually two layers of what I'm thinking is steel spring, is a flat spring steel boning on either side of it to prevent puckering. So I've cut out 2 strips. I need another 2 more because 4 double, 1 for 2 for each side. But I have marked my boning alignment here, and it's about every inch, starting half an inch from the top. I'm able to get 15 grommets in that way. It's very faint because I've done it in chalk so that I can easily remark it if it was in the wrong spot. So I found that the 2 layers of boning are both existing in historical reproductions as well as my modern corsets. So I can't find any back images of the corset I'm specifically recreating, but from other sources, I found that this, method of putting 2 boning channels in the back, either side the grommets to prevent puckering, is also historically accurate. So I'm going to go with that, and then I'm going to go ahead and put in my grommets. So just to keep y'all updated. So I have all the grommets in. I ended up putting them every inch, about half an inch from the end of the panel. And I also have my boning in. I had initially cut out for boning 4 layers, 1 to go on each side, but I realized because my boning is curved that if I put in just a single layer, that it kind of curves the fabric itself. So by putting 2 of them in, I can make the channels straighter and completely straight instead of curved. So they actually have 4 layers each on each side, so a total of 8. And yeah.
Once I was happy with the final pieces, I did cut out my patterns on my final fabric and got to sewing the pieces together for the final time. I pinned each piece together, sateen and twill layer, so they wouldn't shift while I was sewing, and joined the seams up top to bottom. Once the panels were sewn together, I could make any final adjustments to the fit, and then I got to cutting out my bias cut boning channels. I created my boning channels from the same fabric as my lining, cutting on the bias, the diagonal of the straight grain, to ensure that the edges do not fray. Cutting on the bias also allows for a little bit of stretch, which helps once it comes time to insert the boning.
Okay, so this is where it will end in the back. I've just pinned the bottom layer, but my roommate, say hi, helped me pin it back here. And then I just want this angle in the front, and I'm referencing the picture here on my laptop to make sure it's matching all where I want it. But I'm gonna go ahead and mirror this on this side and then sew it down, and then I'll come back and I'll do the top. Okay, so my roommate is just helping me put the boning channels in the correct spot and pinning it while it's on my body, because that's a lot easier than doing it when it's flat and off the body. And she's also playing with my dog in the background, so you'll see plenty of that. But yeah, that's what's happening in this clip.
From there, I could add my decorative diagonal channels, and over top the seam lines where my panels were joined, I could add my boning channels. The boning was then cut to size and inserted along the channels. After that, I used the same cotton twill bias cut to bind the edges, and I could finally add my lace with a yellow silk ribbon inserted along the eyelets and take my final shots.
So all of the boning channels are done and all of the binding is on. It's all beautiful and nice, and so the last step I need to do is throw on the lace and iron and then take my pictures and try it on. But I am essentially done. It is a single step, and I'm just going to base this on because it doesn't really need to be very sturdy. It's just the lace portion, and after all of the other work is what's really holding it together. But yeah, let's see what it looks like with the lace. All right, that looks like we got the lace here on. I added it right above the grommet because on the examples I was looking at, you know, none of them had the lace overlapping on top of the busk here. They had it usually a little bit above. My busk is just full length, and the lace overlaps just slightly on top of it, but I think that's all right. And then in the back, it went over the grommet, so I just laced it into the grommets because I think that looks good, and I can't see the back of any of the examples I had anyways, so maybe it looked like that. But yeah, this has been a really exciting project, and I have really enjoyed making it. It's crazy the amount of work that goes into one of these garments, and yeah, I can't wait to show you all the details that'll be in all of my pictures. But this was so much fun, and I'm really glad I got to do it. So thank you, and thank you for watching.
This project ended up going in a lot of directions I didn't expect, from spending weeks on material research and acquisition to how easy it was for the final piece to come together. The end result may have some flaws, but for how much time I had and for how many new skills I learned, I think I did all right. It's not perfect, but I think that this project gave me plenty of new skills to apply the next time I decide to create a historically inspired garment. Thank you for watching. Okay, what are we doing? What are we doing? Many a late night where she wanted me to go to sleep and I kept sewing. So helpful. Okay, baby. Okay, baby. I'm gonna go turn the video.